Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this live discussion, and always a good one when we unpack straight from the horse's mouth a little bit more around people and the business that they run. So really honored to have Darryn Le Grange from Natal, KwaZulu-Natal, join us today. And Darryn, thank you very much for joining us to share some of your wisdom with us during the course of the day.
Thank you.
We're going to make it informal. We're going to have a chat. Literally, we're going to talk through some experiences, some lessons, some highs and lows. And of course, if you have any questions, type them into the chat box, and we'll definitely have time to deal with them. What we will do is keep everybody pretty much on mute. It just makes sure that we don't have any background noise, but there will be time for Q&A. So please, at any stage, just type in your questions. For those of you that I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Harry Welby-Cook, and together with Peter Scholes, we brought ActionCOACH to South Africa 15 and a half years ago. So although the brand next year will be 30 years old, started in Australia in 1993, we launched in South Africa in 2007 and have had a range of wonderful coaches join our business, and Darryn being one of them. So the focus for today's discussion is to talk a little bit about how do you run a successful franchise? Now, obviously, the slant is going to be towards our ActionCOACH business coaching franchise, but it's going to be relevant to any franchise, because franchising is a relatively well-known business mechanism or business system or business type. But I think often when we think franchising, we tend to think the fast food franchises, the McDonald's, the Steers, the Nando's of this world, and there's a whole lot more to franchising than that. So let's kick it off, Darryn. Let's just maybe start. You had a very successful corporate career. You were MD of a very big business, and then you decided, well, I had enough of this, want to get into myself. So why did you look at franchising per se before we even talk about ActionCOACH? What was it about franchising that was of interest for you?
Harry, I think I'm quite a risk-averse person, so don't like to take big risks. So obviously, when you buy a franchise, you're buying into a proven system. So all you then have to focus on is growing your own business. You don't have to worry about how to do it and what to do. All that's taught to you and given to you. So really, you can just focus on the marketing and sales, which I was quite excited about. So it just made so much sense that I didn't have to go and reinvent the wheel from coming up with a product or coming up with a service offering that may or may not work. So that was really the be all and end all for me. It's like a franchise was the only option I would have explored because it's proven.
Okay, so proven system, great for being risk averse. We can come back to that sales and marketing one just now. But so you thought franchising. Did you investigate different franchises? How did you go about finding the right one?
I did actually, Harry. I mean, over the years, I always, I had a lifelong dream of one day having my own business. So over the years, always looking at different opportunities, and like you said in your intro, I looked at the fast food franchises. At one stage, I was very keen on a Juicy Lucy. Whenever we went shopping, we'd have lunch at Juicy Lucy, and I was like, this looks so easy, toasted salmis and fruit juices, and they seem to be busy because you battle to get a table. So I always looked at those options. But of course, the money you pay and the return on investment, you're not making much money. So a Juicy Lucy, for example, was never going to cover my salary that I was earning before. And then, ActionCOACH just spoke to my skill set in terms of, I love business and I love people. And in ActionCOACH, we help people with their businesses. So it was a match made in heaven. So I looked at a few, not many, but ActionCOACH, when you just get that feeling and something just resonates with you, then it's meant to be. And that was the feeling I got with ActionCOACH.
And just as well, you didn't go Juicy Lucy route because there aren't that many, if any, I think.
No, they aren't.
Over.
They aren't.
So,
exactly.
So just as well. So you mentioned bridging that, helping people and business, bridging those two, that was the attraction. So, you were also a client of ActionCOACH for a while. So you were the recipient of the product. What was it then finally for you that said, yes, okay, I've researched these guys. I like the business and the helping others part. I've been a client. Why this franchise? Why did you choose to become an ActionCOACH?
I think, Harry, so in terms of the business model of ActionCOACH made a lot of sense for me. And then when I emailed all the other franchisees just to ask them, is it a good franchise? I was so impressed because I think I emailed 16 people. I just randomly chose off the list. And 14 out of 16 replied within probably 4 or 5 hours. And I was like, wow, this business has got good people, but they're responsive and they get back to you. Everyone gave positive feedback. So I was like, these people can't all be wrong. I don't think they're all getting commission for a sale. So it's got to make sense. So the people impressed me from day one. And in addition to the business model. So that just, ticked all my boxes and satisfied all the questions I had, going around in my head.
Okay. So you bought into a business that you researched, you liked, it brought about, helping people, the business element, merged it together. You could make more money than you would have at Juicy Lucy, so it kind of would fit with your salary requirements, but you still had to run a business. So you get the training, you get the systems, you get all the wonderful stuff, but I think people forget sometimes in a franchise, it's still your business that you need to run. So you mentioned something early on that you were excited about applying the sales and marketing, yet that's sometimes everybody's biggest fear. So what was exciting about that for you?
I think, Carrie, I've always been excited by the thrill of a sale. So, getting in front of a prospect, and every opportunity in front of a prospect is a fresh opportunity to close a sale. And just that great feeling you get at the end of the day where you've signed up somebody or you've got them to buy into you, because ultimately, people pay us a lot of money. They've got to buy into what you're selling, and they've got to believe that what you're saying you can do, that you in fact can do. So I think just the thrill of that excited me. But yes, quite right. And ActionCOACH gives you lots of strategies. It gives you lots of guidance on sales and marketing. And all you have to therefore do is apply it. And of course, in the application thereof, you also learn your own lessons. It's not a case of plug and play. It's a case of, all the tools, but you've got to use, you've got to learn how to use the tools. But therein was an excitement for me, because I also like to use my own entrepreneurial freedom. I like to use my own thinking, and all of those opportunities existed because I had to go and figure out how to make this thing work.
So it's easy to look back now because you've got the benefit of hindsight and you've been very successful for very, very many years. So is that blend what you experienced from the beginning, the rules, the structure, the system, the elements of what had been proven and tested, together with your entrepreneurial flair and flavor? Were you able to bring those two together from the beginning?
Yes, absolutely. In the beginning, I literally worked day and night because I wanted to get a quick running start. And so I put in a lot of effort in the beginning, and that's what you got to do with any business. You got to put the effort in the beginning, but that's where some people get it wrong. They don't build it the right way. So they got to continuously put that effort in to get the same results. In my case, I put that effort in the beginning to earn the right to take a more of a backseat later on. And, whilst I'm still working very hard in the business, it's nothing like it was in the beginning. So I've got now, I would regard as a good balance between family and work, but I also love what I do. So when I work, it doesn't actually feel like work. It's like, it's as much fun as I would have with a hobby, although I don't treat it as a hobby in any way. So it's all worked out well for me. Down the 8.5 years down the line.
So is that an important blend for people to consider? You mentioned a lot more balance, time for family and work, but you like working and it feels like a passion, feels like a hobby, feels like a calling. Is that blend a good one to consider to get right? Saying, I want to go into business for myself. Franchising might be a great option. Is what you do important to love?
I think so, Harry. I mean, when you're passionate about something, the motivation to get up in the morning is there. When you don't love what you do, or if it's not really something that speaks to what drives you or what excites you, then it's going to be a grind, because you're going to have bad days, you're going to have bad weeks. But it's in those moments, the more passionate you are about what you do, the easier it is to get out of that hole, so to speak. Whereas if it's not something you're passionate about, you're going to be constantly thinking, how do I get out of this? And that thought has never been there. So I think if you find something that you're good at and you find something that you love, you couldn't wish for anything better in terms of a vocation.
So let's go back to that startup phase. You mentioned I worked hard, I put in the effort up front, and yes, it is the reality for any new business. You have to put the effort up front, but a lot of people don't. they start their own thing, they buy a franchise, and they think they're going to have the juicy Lucy where they'll sit back and it's an easy business. So you put in the effort up front. What did that effort look like? What was the investment required in time and energy that you did put in the beginning?
So Harry, I mean, initially, so you buy an ActionCOACH franchise and you go for the training, which is world class. But in relative terms, you still know nothing. You haven't experienced it. You've got the theory, but you've got to put the theory into practice. So, then coming back from training, I had to learn how to coach. But at the same time, I had to fill the pipeline. So I had to get out there to meet people. I had to get sales opportunities, and I had to close sales. So you had to focus on all three legs of this business, which is marketing, sales, and coaching. You couldn't do one without the other. I could spend all day learning how to be a great coach, but if I got no clients to coach, well, then those skills aren't going to be utilized. And likewise, you can do fantastically well at attracting prospects, but if you're not a good coach, well, they're not going to stay with you very long. So you had to get all elements right. So in the beginning, it was just a case of me putting in the hours to balance those three. And I'm proud to say that I still have my client from month one, 8.5 years later, that I signed up, So my retention's been pretty good over the years. And I put it down to, figuring out how to be a good coach. So you've got to, the franchise gives you all these tools, but you still got to find your own way. You've got to add your own flavor. You've got to add your own uniqueness. It's not a case of cookie cutter and copy and paste.
So you found your flavor, you've put in the effort. You still put in the effort, albeit, the intensity's toned down. Yet 8.5 years later, with a team of coaches, you're still driven, you're still passionate and excited about this business. And, I remember a couple of weeks ago, you were saying you love this business now more than ever. What keeps you going? What keeps feeding that fuel for this business?
I think, Harry, I still love what I do. So the same passion I had 8.5 years ago, I've still got today. So the satisfaction of helping somebody in their business, the satisfaction of seeing somebody reach greater heights than they would have done on their own, satisfaction of someone getting great results, of making more money in their business. That's invaluable for the coach. You can't get enough of that. It's like a drug, But then in addition to that, the longer you coach, like with anything in life, the longer you do it, the better you get. So I feel that I'm at my peak at the moment in terms that I've really learned how to coach well. Because I've got thousands of hours under the belt. I worked it out actually this morning, and I think I'm sitting on 8,160 hours of coaching. So you do anything for 8,160 hours, you're going to be pretty reasonable at it. And then in addition to that, of course, the passion's still there. So that passion hasn't waned. It hasn't gone away, So it's still as alive as ever. But it's the fact that I'm even better at what I do than I was back then fuels me to apply my skills to more people.
So let's take a look at the individual. And I know you're quite a private person. I know you're quite humble, but let's look at you, because some people will make it work. Some people won't. Yet from the beginning, you were Rookie Coach of the Year in South Africa. You were International Global Rookie Coach of the Year on the global stage for ActionCOACH. You've got an award-winning firm. Your coaches become Rookie Coach of the Year. They keep winning awards. Your firm keep winning awards. What's your secret?
I think there's a couple of things, Harry. I think, the first thing is, one of my values is pride. I'm a very proud person, and I like to be proud of whatever I do. I like to be proud of what I put out there. I like to be proud of my team members. I like to be proud of the coaching work we do. I like to be proud of our officers. So pride is a very big thing, half my priority list. So I never want to let anybody down. I want to do a job where afterwards, not only is the client delighted, but I'm proud. So that's number one. And then I think the other thing is to be consistent. I think, that's probably what most people want in life, is consistency. Even if the consistency is at an average level, it's better than those peaks and troughs where you're up and down. So I've always been a fairly consistent person. And I think it's because I've got fairly consistent habits. So if I do the same things, I won't just suddenly neglect the things that are working. If I find something that's working, I keep doing it until it doesn't work anymore. So I would say, a combination of consistency and pride are probably parts of my secret sauce, if I can say that.
Okay. So you in a franchise, so you own a franchise, but you've also coached many people in their franchise. What are the typical mistakes? Why does it not work?
I think, Harry, you probably find some people, as you kind of alluded to in the beginning, okay, I've bought a franchise, everything's done for me. And that's not the case. The franchise gives you the tools, it gives you the recipes, it gives you the operational kind of side, and of course it gives you guidance and marketing in that, but you've still got to execute that. So I think maybe people come into it with a false sense of what it's really going to take. If this was so easy, everybody would be doing it. You know, business is not easy. Some businesses are simple. I believe the ActionCOACH model is very simple, but it's not easy. But likewise with any other franchise, nothing's that easy. So I think that's the first thing. And I think maybe some people come into a franchise and want to reinvent the wheel. And that makes no sense, because if you buy a franchise, you're buying into a proven system. Why go and mess with that recipe? I do believe that down the line, and this is the case, this is the stage I'm at the moment, where once you've really mastered that recipe, you do earn the right to make a few tweaks and changes to suit your style, to be a little bit creative or innovative. But don't do that in the beginning. Get the basics, follow the franchise recipe, get it working. And once it's working, you earn the right to start experimenting with a few things, not trying to go too wild off the path, because that's when things could derail. But you get to, you know, try a few different things, which is what excites me. I like to try different things. I like to test and measure them. And if it works, we keep doing it. And if it doesn't work, we throw it away and we go back to the drawing board.
There's no point in buying a system and then not using it.
Exactly.
But once you've become, you know, master level and almost at the 10,000 hours now with your hours, you know, then of course one has a little bit of flexibility to tweak and change and experiment, I think, to keep things fresh. So franchising is not a guarantee, but typically more franchises work out than others. So because of that structure, because of the support, the systems, all the wonderful things we know that it works out. The ones that you've seen fail, either in ActionCOACH or other franchises, why do they fail?
So I think it's back to the same thing, people not following the recipe, and maybe people not shifting their identity to think like a business owner. So, you know, if you take, and we see this quite often, you'll take an employee that decides to leave their job and venture onto their own, which is great. But what they have to realize with that comes an identity shift. And the identity shift means, you know, you need to be thinking like a business owner. You can't think like an employee anymore, because if you think like an employee, you'll behave like an employee. You can't wait around for someone to tell you what to do. You've got to take the leadership and the ownership, and you've really got to run with the business, so to speak. So I think that identity shift is sometimes missing. And, you know, I've coached lots of people through identity shift changes. You know, the other one you see is when, I'll take a typical example, a sales rep becomes a sales manager. That requires an identity shift. If you keep thinking like a rep, performing like a rep, conducting yourself like a rep, well, you're going to get the results of a rep and not the results that are required of a manager. So that's certainly one of the reasons, Harry. And maybe, you know, some franchises are just not as good as others. So they're not as robust, or they're not as proven. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if we look back over the last couple of years, you know, throw COVID into the mix, that really tested the business models of franchises. If your business model was able to withstand, which ActionCOACH was able to withstand quite beautifully. In fact, we had our most profitable year during COVID as a firm. Other businesses, you know, weren't geared, or maybe weren't as well supported. I mean, so that's one thing that ActionCOACH did phenomenally well, was the tools and the extra support that came through COVID was absolutely amazing, which enabled us to pass that on to our clients and help them save their businesses. So it was really it was a great test for the ActionCOACH business model, and you know, the test came out trumps.
Okay, so if we look at your business, because your business slightly different to probably the norm, let's call it that, in South Africa, but not different into what the global opportunity is. So a lot of coaches are individual practice owners. They start out, they're one-man bands. They might have some support staff, but they're the only coach in the business. You've chosen the route to go, no, I want to scale beyond just myself, and you employ business coaches. What was, and maybe continues to be, the motivation behind not just doing this on your own, but actually building a team of coaches and doing it on scale?
Harry, you know, the funny thing was, we often talk in ActionCOACH about self-sabotage, and we talk about how people place limits on themselves. And I actually only realized the other day that I did exactly the same thing. Because when I left my job to start this business, my only objective was to replace my salary. That's as big as I was thinking, you know. And then because I hit the ground running quite fast, I got to a point where I can't take on any more clients. So what do I do now? And then there was an opportunity, with my assistant that wanted to be a coach, and we made her a coach, and she did fantastically well. Then I was like, okay, this model could work, but that certainly wasn't in my sights in the beginning. My sights would purely just replace the salary. So it almost happened just by chance, in a sense. But then I guess the thinking shifted to say, well, we can play a much bigger role here. We can have a much bigger impact. But also the thing that I really love is the support we get from each other in our team, in my team. So at the moment, there's 5 of us. And every single one of us has had a personal challenge this year. And every single one of us has been there for each other. And it's not even a team, it's a family we have here. So if I was a single practitioner, I think I would just be extremely lonely.
Good. So you're saying, the value of the team, 5 great people there to support, it's no longer lonely, and even looking to expand. So maybe that self-sabotage is where you started. How do you now see the road forward for you and your business going forward?
No, so I mean, we see it as very rosy, and we see it, we've got a big goal we chase February 2024. And so, I think, Carrie, one of the other things is that we teach business owners a lot of great stuff during our journey with them. And the one thing that I've been absolutely pedantic about is that we must be, whatever we teach our clients, we must, because there's nothing worse than a plumber who has leaking taps at home, or an electrician whose light bulbs don't work, So you must start with yourself. So we've got a common goal that we're chasing for February 2024, and everybody's united around that goal, and that goal drives us forward. It takes a lot of sense in terms of our strategic discussions, and everybody knows their role in contributing to that goal. So bringing on another coach is the logical solution to that goal. Without bringing on another coach and another team member, we can't achieve that goal. So, when you've got a good strategic, kind of tough questions are answered in the context of that, without you having to scratch your head and say, is it the right decision? You just look to the strategic goal and say, well, what will we have to do to make this goal happen? And then it answers all your questions.
Okay. So there's a very much a big picture goal. Maybe just for everybody's benefit, share with us your vision of your firm. What's your vision for your firm? And
so our vision statement is to be the most recommended and respected business coaching practice in KZN. So, that in itself is a statement that might or might mean nothing to people, but to us, it means that we got to do everything better than everybody else. So we've got to answer the door better than anyone else. We must return phone calls and reply to emails faster than anyone else. We must give you a great cup of coffee when you come to our offices. We must do everything better than everybody else if we want to be the most recommended and most respected, because that means we want to be at the front of the queue. We want to be number one. And, it's as the leader of this business to drive and to breathe life into that vision every single day. And I certainly try to do that.
So you've got that big picture, you've got the very specific goals, the stretch goals, and now we need more resources to go at it. But as the leader of the organization, you're still very hands-on from a management perspective. You're the type of guy dots the I's, crosses the T's. So how much is that management important to manage those little details so that you can be congruent, so that you can be proud, so that you can be consistent, all those things you already mentioned?
No, it's critically important, Harry. And, by management, we don't mean by any means micromanagement. My team are outstanding, but I see my job as to be the leader that they need, and I need to give them direction. So it's giving them direction, and we have a staff meeting every Monday morning, and we set the pace for the week. Everyone knows what they have to do. Everyone reports back on what their plan is for the week, and then everyone sets off to do it, and I don't need to do anything else with them. So it's just a pure case of giving direction, and then because the team's really fired up and motivated, they know exactly what they have to do, and I completely trust them to do that. So we have a great time on a Monday morning. We have a lot of fun. We have our discussion, we got a fixed agenda, we know exactly what has to be achieved, and then everyone goes on the rest of the week, and we meet again next Monday. So, my management style is very much give the direction, but then empower and let go, and everyone does their thing from there.
So one thing that I think is important in any business is yes, the effort up front, yes, the sales and marketing, all that good stuff, but it's so easy for people to have myths around how success just lands in people's lap. And I know you've broken that myth many times internally, but maybe for the benefit of anybody listening to this, when you started, the perception could be that you had a big network, a big database, and it was just an easy transition and you fell into your success. How was it really like in that startup phase from growing your business? Was it a database? Was it well connected? Was it all those wonderful things, or did you build it from naught?
No, I mean, Harry, my database or my network prior to this wasn't business owners, So the network that I have today is completely built up since I started ActionCOACH. So today I had to build up from the ground up. So there was no easy transition into, oh, you've got, all these people, I knew a few people, but they didn't, those people weren't relevant to this business in terms of what I could offer. So no, I had to start from the ground up, and yes, I built the database from day one, and I'm proud to say today I have just over 18,000 people on my database. So when I want to send out a message, I talk to 18,000 people, which helped us during COVID, by the way, because you couldn't see people. So if you didn't have a database during COVID, you were pretty under a huge amount of pressure. Luckily, that wasn't our case. But no, the reality is there's no shortcuts to success. If you've got a shortcut, please share it with me because I haven't found it. So the road to success is hard work. But like I say, if you do it right the first time and you build your business the right way, which is obviously what we teach business owners, then you earn the right not to have to constantly work at that pace the whole time, because that initial pace you start off at is not sustainable. You will, no matter how passionate you are, you will burn out at some point. So it can only be for a limited period of time. But if you do it the right way, then, as I said earlier on, you earn the right to take a bit of a step back. So that's certainly the recipe that I've tried to follow. But no, it was hard work from day one, from ground zero right up.
So now that you've been doing it 8.5 years, it's easier. You've got those almost 10,000 hours. Why stay in a franchise? Because I think that's the thing a lot of people kind of grapple with. Is it's great in the beginning, it gets you to a certain point, and then the danger is you go, well, why must I keep paying these fees? Why don't I leave? So what keeps you here?
So I mean, a lot of people have actually asked me that, a lot of clients. In fact, my 10-year-old son says, Dad, why don't you leave ActionCOACH and start Darren's coaching? You don't have to pay royalties. So I thought, quite profound for a 10-year-old. But it's the community, Harry. It's the ActionCOACH community. So I love, on a Monday morning, we have our webinar with all the coaches around the country. That's my highlight for a Monday morning. I love it. So I love people. I love being around people, and just to be in this environment is awesome. I mean, the support we receive from ActionCOACH is absolutely world class, and the learning environment is huge. They keep giving us new tools, new programs, new opportunities to learn, and I never ever want to step away from that. So I love the learning opportunity. I love the environment, and I love the upliftment. You're surrounded by positive people. We're surrounded like with our clients in that sense, but we also need to fill our buckets somewhere. So, we typically pour into our clients' buckets, but we need to take our bucket somewhere and get it filled as well. And where do you get it filled? Well, you get it filled by the rest of the ActionCOACH community. So that's the long and short, but that's the truth, and that's the answer.
So before we take some questions, if there are any, you mentioned that you like to be consistent, but you're quite a proud person. You want to create something that you can be proud about. I know there must be many things in the last 8.5 years that stand out for you, but what are you looking back today so far on your journey? What are you most proud about?
Good question. Harry, I'm obviously proud of what my team's achieved. We've won the ActionCOACH Firm of the Year for the last 6 years. So I'm proud of the awards we've received. That's not what drives us. So it's great to be recognized for the work you put in, but that's certainly not what drives us. But I am proud of that. I'm proud of the results we've had with some of our clients, and those will forever be my proudest moments. And I guess there's a number of clients, and it's difficult to highlight certain, but I guess the one that always comes to mind is Super Tires. And I've been a client of mine now for 7 years, and in the first year of coaching, we grew their profits by 29,000%, and it completely changed, the owner's life, completely changed the business. And, to the point that today he doesn't work in the business at all. He only works on strategic projects, and he's been the perfect client because he just followed all the advice. He took all the actions we agreed upon, and it absolutely worked like clockwork. And in fact, I was a guest speaker at their conference last Saturday, and it was a very proud moment because they started coaching with me in 2015, and they had their first ever conference, and it was really in a real, let's say, down market venue, to be blunt. And this last Saturday, they had the conference with every single staff member in attendance, over 100 people at a hotel. Every single person was accommodated in the hotel overnight. And they took the whole entire team to the Springbok versus Argentina test in Durban. And I saw some of the testimonials afterwards. You know, people said, I've never been to a conference. I've never stayed in a hotel. I've never been to a rugby match. And just to have been a part of that journey was absolutely awesome. And it gives me goosebumps even talking about it, you know. So when you get to be just a part of someone's journey and you see that transition of where they come from, where they are today, and the coaching continues, wow, that just makes me so proud that you know, I'm proud of Dean and his team and what they've built, and how far they've come, and how many lives have been impacted along the way. So there's no amount of money you can put to that. It's absolutely invaluable, and it's just yeah, it's something that I'll forever be grateful for, having that opportunity. Yeah, and I still remember that very first call, and I mentioned this at the conference last Saturday. He phoned me in November 2014, and his words to me were, "But I need your help." I remember those words distinctly, and I said, "No problem. Can I just take down your email address?" I said, "You know," he said, "Super Tires." I said, "How do you spell super?" And he said, "No, we spell it the right way, S-U-P-E-R." You know, and I remember that, and yeah, and then I met with him a couple of weeks later, and he said, "Let's start in January," and the rest is history. So you know, but there's been many other clients, you know, people that have come to me where, you know, they're self-funding their business, and they can't make payroll every month, and now suddenly, years down the line, they haven't seen an overdraft in years. They've got money in the bank. They're taking overseas holidays, and the business runs without them. I mean, wow, it's so, and that's why this business is so awesome, because whilst the work, you know, you might think, is it monotonous? It's absolutely not. There's so much variety, because you're dealing with different businesses, different industries, different personalities, but yet you can still get great results across all those variations, you know. So yeah.
And the impact of the ripple effect, of course, is huge. So you're obviously doing a great job, because there's no real question. So I'm going to ask you to give some people some advice. So if somebody's listening to this, either live today or recording, and they're going, you know, I want to do something that where you were before you joined Action Coach. I want to do something for myself, considering franchising and thinking about Action Coach. What would your advice be to get them from that feeling of wanting something more to actually just putting the trigger and doing it? What would you suggest?
So I think, Harry, you need to do your research first. You need to make sure that, you know, what you're buying into has a proven recipe. You know, questions I would ask if I was looking at a franchise: how many failed franchisees have there been? How many franchisees have exited? What are the reasons being that they exited? I would do all that due diligence that any responsible person should do if you're looking at buying a business. And then, of course, I would speak to existing franchisees. But the other thing that I would definitely do is I would make sure that it's a good fit for your skills. You know, they say, you know, I know when I was younger, and I'm sure most people can relate to this, I always say, work on your weaknesses, you know. And I've always said, no. Well, I've since learned, no, work on your strengths. You know, there's many weaknesses I have, many. And if I had to work on them, I could probably get a 10% improvement, which wouldn't be enough to have an impact on anything. But yet, the things I'm good at are the things that I've built my career around, and I've just focused on becoming more expert at those. And that's what's made, you know, possibly made me stand out. So make sure it's something that you're good at, and make sure it's something that will, in 10 years' time, will still excite you. You know, if you go and buy a business just because it's an opportunity for a business, but it's not something you're really passionate about, that passion will wear off when the hard days come, because there will be hard days. There'll be bad weeks, there'll be bad months. And but if you're not passionate about it, that will, you know, turn the tide on you. If you're passionate about it, you can still fight through those tough periods, because there will always be the sight of light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that would be some of the key advice that I would give to somebody considering buying into a franchise. Brilliant advice, Darren. And thank goodness you didn't buy the Juicy Lucy, because you would definitely have bored of it by 100%, now. 100%. But it's an honor to have you on the business with us, and the team and the journey, and more importantly, that impact
that you get to make. So thank you for your time. No questions, so we're not going to keep everybody unnecessarily. If this is something that resonates with you, as Darren said, there must be a fit, must be something you're passionate about. In the country where it is today, globally, but specifically in South Africa, we have challenges that can only be fixed through more profitable, more sustainable, more successful businesses. And we get to be part of parcel of that journey. So Darren, thanks for your time. Thanks for everybody for tuning in and listening today. And make sure that you do what the name suggests. Take action. Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks, Darren. Keep well.
Thank you, Harry. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.